Hey guys, how are you doing? I am Joe Hendricks, and I am streaming live on YouTube and TikTok. And I feel like I am a media conglomerate here because I have like three screens open at the same time because I really don't know what I'm doing. Um, but I'm here to answer questions for you guys about photography. Anything you want to know. The only thing I will tell you that I do not address is contract issues. I just don't like to deal with contracts. My wife does all that. But anything with creative photography, questions you have about starting the business, getting into it, you let me know. I've been doing professional photography for about 15 years. I learned in the Navy when I was a film photographer, and I've kind of been through it all. I did wedding photography for the last 15 years, and I can answer pretty much any question when it comes to wedding photography because that's just my forte. That's where I make a living. Um, everything is yeah. So I think everything's working. Can you guys hear me? You hear me? If you can, just kind of send me a text. Okay, it looks like you can. So this is crazy. Before and I'm on TikTok also, so if you have questions about photography, just let me know. But it's crazy because as I'm streaming, I had to download this encoder to get everything on, and anyways, enough about the streaming thing. Let's answer questions about photography. Until you have a question, and I'm actually looking at questions on YouTube, but I need to pull up another window so I can see you guys on Facebook also and see what you guys are asking there. And I really don't expect a whole lot of people to ask stuff today because this is my first time doing it. Like I said, I'm just getting into it, but it's something I want to do a lot more often. I'm straight to the point with my answers, and because I don't feel like there's any reason to beat around the bush, I just want to get into it, answer as many questions as I can for you, and just kind of share my knowledge of photography. So, if you have any questions, text them. Well, you actually not text them, but message on YouTube, okay? Because I can see those. And you can also ask me on TikTok because I'm streaming live on TikTok also. So if you don't know about TikTok as a photographer, I think you need to be on there because TikTok is just taking off. I have a few videos that have well over 700,000 views on there. So the length at which you can capture an audience is huge. So if you're not on TikTok yet and you're a professional photographer, you need to get on there because it's very important and the reach is still big. But I don't see a whole lot of photographers kind of doing behind the scenes kind of stuff. Basically what they do is they take a picture, they show themselves like getting really low to the ground, and then they're like, hey, look what I took. So that's kind of what it is. So there's room for people with knowledge on TikTok to, advertise your photography, show people photography, how to do it, and that's why I am here. Is I want to answer all your questions on TikTok too. So until I get any questions, I'm going to give you a brief history about me as a photographer, and I've been doing photography for pretty much half my life. I went into the Navy as a photographer's mate. I didn't go in as a photographer's mate, but I became a photographer's mate. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. I absolutely loved it. And I started to excel at it because I loved it so much. It was something that I absolutely enjoyed doing. It's kind of like one of those jobs where you're not working a day in your life because, photography is just something that I always wanted to get better at. So I took a little break from film photography, got into video editing and all this other stuff. And then I got back into photography when I got out of the liquor industry in Tennessee, and I started shooting weddings. My wife handled the emails and the business and everything else, and I did all the photography, and we just took off from there. I started at $500 for a wedding, if you can believe that. I would never, never shoot a wedding for anything less than 2,000 now. but just because I know all the work that goes into it and everything. And I went from $500 to up to $10,000 per wedding as a wedding photographer, and only doing the photography. So I've been there, done that. If you don't know my work, go to joehendricks.com and make sure you like the pictures I take, because you do not need to take advice from somebody who you don't respect. And I'm really, really big on that. If you don't respect my work, you don't need to take my advice. So go check out joehendricks.com, see if you like what I do, and if you do, and you're kind of wondering what the next step is in your photography career, just ask me. I'm an open book. I will tell you numbers, prices. I will look at people's work, and I will tell you what I think you're worth. I will kind of explain to you how to deal with brides and grooms on the wedding day, anything like that. If you're struggling in your photography business and you don't know what the next step is, tell me where you're at. I'll be more than glad to talk to you about that. Like I said, there's a wealth of knowledge up here in this head that I'm just wanting to give to you guys for free, just to let you know that there's another photographer out there that cares for you, that wants to help you succeed. So yeah, let those questions roll in, and I'll be more than glad to answer them. I think one of the things I could tell you right now, some of the gear I use 2 Nikon D750s. The D750 is probably one of my favorite cameras for shooting a wedding because the low light capabilities are amazing, focus is amazing, and they're cheap. You can get them for about $1,000 brand new now. I have 2 of them just in case one goes down. And just for an example, I was out taking pictures today. One of my cameras went down. And basically I was turning it on and it wasn't going on all the way. And I've experienced pretty much everything that can go wrong with a camera in my life. And this was kind of a new one. And then I looked and I had reset my camera. So because I reset it, it wanted me to tell it what date it was. And because I didn't have the date in, it wouldn't let me use the camera. So it was kind of interesting that I had to go through all that. But no matter what, even if you've been doing photography for 2 years or 20 years, however long, I've been a total for about 24 years all combined. You're always still learning new things, always. There's always going to be something that goes wrong at a wedding. And I think the most important thing you can do to prepare yourself for a wedding is to just know your camera inside and out, because something is going to go wrong, and when it does, you better know what you're doing. Because when you try to fake yourself out of that situation, 1, it sucks. It feels terrible. 2, you look bad because you're sitting there in the middle of photographing the bride and groom and you don't know what to do. And 3, it sticks with you. As a creative photographer, when people are depending on you to come up with a beautiful picture, it's really hard to continue to do that if you feel like a failure in front of other people. So, again, that's why we're here. We're here to talk about what are you afraid of? What do you need help in? Let me give you some guidance. If I can't give you the guidance you need, I can direct you into the right place. Because like I said, I've been through there. I've done it. I've shot hundreds of weddings, hundreds of families. I can tell you all kinds of little tips and tricks for all of them. So I think a second ago I was talking about weddings. And like I said, I've gone from 500 to 10,000 a wedding, and I can tell you the difference between all of them. I can tell you the price gaps. I can tell you for a fact, and this is a very interesting one, that if your price is $2,300, $2,400 a wedding, I can almost guarantee you that your clients are saying, "Oh, can I get a discount? Like if we don't shoot the engagement session, can I get it cheaper?" They're trying to look for a little cheaper wedding photographer or to spend less. But they want your quality of work, and that's very important to know. But if you simply go from 23 and 2,400, somewhere in that price range, to 2,800, just rise it up to $2,800. Sorry. If you go to $2,800, I guarantee you, no one will be asking for a discount anymore. And if you have a package that's a little bit higher, a lot of people upgrade. And this is so weird. It's just kind of an anomaly that I stumbled across in my photography career. But I always had people asking for discounts when I was a lot cheaper. And when I went up to $2,800, no one ever asked for a discount ever again. And I got into a completely different like price range of wedding photography. And I've told this to a couple other wedding photographers who asked my advice on wedding photography, and they saw the same thing. And I just find that really interesting that just the perception of price was enough to make people go, I believe in this person a little bit more, and I would rather spend the extra little bit of money to get amazing photography than to go the opposite route and ask for a discount. So that's one of the very many things that I learned about wedding photography is just the price gaps. And but as a wedding photographer, you have to be confident in your own prices. And it's the biggest struggle that any photographer has when they're shooting weddings is you want to feel like you're worth it. And one of the things I like to tell people that are kind of new to a area in wedding photography is that if no one knows you there, charge a lot. Just charge a lot. Make them prove you wrong. Because if you do it that way, you can start at whatever price you want. 5, 6,000, 4,000, 8,000, whatever you want. Let people prove you wrong. Because the first perception that people are going to have of you when they come to your website and you're brand new in town and no one's ever heard of you is, wow, this person must be good because they charge $6,000 a wedding. Let me look at their work. Does the work match the price? Does the information that's on the website match the price? And after that, does the online conversation or the in-house conversation at a coffee shop, which hopefully we can go back to here really soon, does that match the price? Like, does that person know every single question that I need to have answered as a bride? And that's one of my most fun things to do is answer questions for brides. I love it when they come to the list. They have this huge list of questions and their mom's with them and the mom has questions. I love that because I've been through it all. I know how to handle the situation. If I don't, I've been in a similar situation, so it's not too hard to figure out. And that's what comes with experience. Now, if you have that experience, but your price is low, go ahead and raise it. Like I said, let them prove you wrong. Now, on the flip side, if you don't feel like you're worth that much, it's going to come across. It's definitely going to come across. So you need to make sure that you are worth what you are charging. And for me, every single time, and this is how it is for every photographer, every single time I went up in my prices, it was the scariest thing in the world. I thought the whole entire world was ending. I thought, oh my gosh, if I raise my prices $500, no one's going to book me anymore. And I already have all these bookings coming in. Everybody goes through it. It's common. It's so common. And it's okay to feel scared in that moment because, yeah, you might lose some clients. But you're also going to gain respect. And you're also going to gain, the confidence that you need in yourself. So as I was going up in price as a wedding photographer, I gained more experience. I was able to answer all those questions at the coffee shop with the mom with the list and all that stuff. My photography became more and more creative, and I started getting known a little bit more because I was pushing the boundaries. My photography no longer was stagnant, no longer was like everybody else's in the game. I started upping my game a lot, and that was a personal thing that I wanted to do, that I wanted to take my photography to the next level. There also comes a time when you don't want to be that creative anymore. That day does come. But it's okay because you have to do projects in between, keep you going. But the most important thing with photography, no matter what genre you're in, you gotta love it. You gotta love what you're doing because if you don't love what you're doing, it's going to show. You're going to it's gonna be work every day, and it shouldn't be work. I mean, you got a camera in your hand. You got a camera in your hand. You're going outside, taking pictures in the fresh air, in the country where I am. I moved to Colorado because I had to be around the mountains. I had to be around things that I wanted to take pictures of. Um, so I'll get back on track. Does anybody have any questions for me? If you do, please text me on YouTube. Just comment in the comments below of this live stream. I'm going through right now on Facebook, just kind of making sure that nobody's left anything, because I have to look in all these different places. Because I wish there was a system. Does anybody know a system where all the comments from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and everything else can show up at one time? Because, oh man, that would be so helpful. Here, send me a like or something. Like, I don't even know if this thing is working here. All right, but anyways. So, as I shot, hundreds of weddings, I got to a point in my career where I wasn't getting tired of it. I just needed something different. So me being who I am, and my wife will tell you this, I went to the extreme different, and I traveled America for 2 years in an Airstream with my family. I had to convince my family to do it. We were making $100,000 a year in wedding photography, and I wasn't feeling it at that moment. So we sold everything, bought the Airstream, and we were also living with my mother. My mother-in-law was living with us, and we couldn't just leave her, so we had to get a bigger Airstream, a 30-foot bunk, and we had to bring her along, and it was called Showing Mom America, and it was going to be an amazing trip. Of course, to begin conversation. So my wife is, so I'll tell you the Showing Mom America stuff here in the future. So my wife is texting me. She's in the other room. She's telling me to ask you guys a question. What is it that you're struggling with the most in photography? What is it? I would love to hear where you're at in your journey. Are you a beginner photographer? In fact, that's a great question to start out with in the middle of this whole entire thing. Are you a beginner photographer? Are you professional, amateur, hobbyist? What are you? Comment in the comments so I can see kind of who I'm talking to, because here I am blabbering about weddings, but if none of you are wedding photographers, then I obviously don't need to be talking about that anymore. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep going through that story so you guys are entertained. Are you not entertained? But anyways, we got into the Airstream and we traveled America for a year. And that's when I fell in love with America and the country and the western side of America. It's absolutely beautiful. Buying that Airstream and traveling with my family was the absolute best thing that we ever did. We lost a lot of clients in the wedding photography industry, but we gained a sense of adventure that we had never really known that we had. And it really just turned our life around, which is why we picked up everything and moved to Colorado a little bit later. It was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful moving to Colorado. And I loved it so much. I love it so much. So Rhonda, you're in the other room. Do you see if people are commenting or not? Because I don't see any comments. And if you are commenting, I apologize. I don't see anything. So I can't answer any questions unless you... Okay, nobody's commenting. That's good. I just want to make sure that this is working. So are you a hobbyist, beginner? Are you a professional? How much do you charge for your packages, for your wedding photography? How much do you charge? Where are you at right now? What would give you the confidence to raise your prices more? Would it be a better portfolio? Would it be just more knowledge of weddings? Because when you're first starting out as a wedding photographer, it's very deterring to go after clients when you really don't know what you're doing. I thought I was a lot better when I first started, but I really was not that great. And I took a lot of chances that I should have never taken, but I did take those chances. Um, and it was it was a lot of fun. But looking back, I kind of think of myself and I go, man, I had a lot of guts back then. Um, to be able to try some of the things that I did. Here, let me tell you one thing that I did. Okay, I ended my TikTok live feed. One of the things I did when, like, on my second wedding, the bride and groom were coming in to the chapel, okay? And I'm right here at the very back of the chapel, which I don't do anymore. I'm always in the front now. But at that time, on my second wedding, I was in the back of the chapel. I had my assistant right behind me. It was very, very dark. I had a bounce flash on. I took 2 or 3 pictures of them coming in. I took off my flash, handed it to my assistant. I put on a remote. He ran around to the front. I can't believe this. Ran around to the front. He put the flash in front of them, facing their faces, which is what I wanted. And I took the picture from behind, and I got this really beautiful light coming in, coming from behind them, which is actually in front of them. But from my point of view, it lit them up big time. Now, I don't know if I would try that. But I had a lot of guts back then to try something like that. It's kind of foolish if you really think about it, because you're wasting all these pictures. And plus, I'm shooting behind them. What kind of sense does that make? So now, as a professional photographer who charges a lot more, who's more experienced, I'm always in the front, always on the bride side of the aisle when they come down. That way you can turn and take pictures of the groom. And I shoot 95% of my weddings all by myself, so I have to have those angles. And the only time that I really hire a second photographer is, basically to comfort my couple, because they just feel better. But I'm going to get all the shots they need. I don't have to have a second photographer to do that. But what I love about using a second photographer is that I can let them be creative. I can let them do whatever they want to do. And that's, I really get a good variety of second photographers that want to shoot with me because I let them do what they want. And I tell them straight up, look, I'm going to get everything I need, the details and all this other stuff. But what I need you for is that moment when the bride is talking to her dad right before they enter. Like, I can't get that because I'm all the way down at the front of the aisle. And that's a moment that I love, like that I really need. Or you can be in the other room with the bride or the groom, whatever we decide on that day, and whatever they're more comfortable with. And, and get those special moments that are at that time, But I really love using second photographers for that. Unfortunately, what happens a lot with my receptions when I have a second photographer is, first of all, you don't need 2 photographers at a reception. That is overkill, big time. And I find myself just getting so bored at receptions. But a lot of photographers take their camera and they're always going click, click. They're taking pictures like this, or changing it this way and trying to get that blur in the motion of people dancing. Because they don't really get to try that a whole lot on their own with their own wedding, because a bride and groom, they expect a certain type of picture that comes from your photography. Now, on the other hand, there are some photographers out there like Fairwaristi, who I respect immensely, who just come straight out and say, your wedding is an experiment, and you're going to get something like you've never seen before, but you're also not going to be getting those details and just those little things that you'll get the details that matter, but you're not going to get all the static shots that most photographers take. And I mean, what a huge amount of respect I have for somebody who just comes out and says, your wedding is an experiment. That's awesome. When people tell you to find a niche in like whatever you're doing in photography, that is one of the best examples I always give to people, because he knows that he wants to be creative at weddings. I'm talking about Fairwareisti. If you don't know his work, go to fairwareisti.com. He's amazing. And he's such a nice guy, too, in person. But to be able to just know that the expectations when you are taking pictures is for you to be creative, it's amazing. I got to a little bit of that point where people expected me to be creative. And I had some moments in my wedding photography where I was getting super creative, super creative. And I was, laying people down on the concrete and making them look like it was like 3D or whatever. And it was so much fun, and that picture took so much work. But I got to a point where I didn't want to do that anymore. And that was pretty extreme at the time. So I would find myself on a photo shoot, and I would hear the couple say, "Oh, when are you going to get creative?" They expected me me to take those pictures. I was like, well, don't really feel like it today. But, it's like you do what you got to do, and you get creative in those moments when you really don't want to be creative, and you make it happen. I would be curious if you had to say that brides and grooms know you for a certain kind of photography, what would that photography be? What is it that they hire you for? For me, it's for my creativity. Now that I am in Colorado, I started a company called ElopeTellYourRide.com, and all I do is shoot elopements. I don't want to shoot big weddings anymore. I will every once in a while, depending on the couple and how cool they are, because I'm not just going to shoot anybody for 12 hours or whatever. I prefer couples who love the mountains, who love to go hiking, who love to be outdoors, who want something different, who don't want the chaos that comes with a wedding to be there. And if you've been shooting weddings for a long time, you know that there's a lot of chaos. It just comes with the territory. And, you kind of have to be a psychologist when you're dealing with some of these couples, because at weddings, you don't have to deal with it at elopements, because those couples are amazing. I've never met a couple that's, been crazy for elopements. But anyways, weddings always just kind of have their own things that you have to deal with, unfortunately. And so here, I'll give you an example of something that I came across. All right, and they might be on Facebook and they might see this, but this really happened. So I'm at a wedding in Nashville, and I'm getting ready to do the first look. The bride is in the back. She looks amazing. The groom is out here in front, looking away from her, looking at me. And I like them both to be looking at me, so that when she walks down the aisle, I can go back and forth with my camera. I can focus on him, take a picture, focus on her, take a picture, continuous focus, back button. We'll talk about that another day, which is amazing. And that moment is getting ready to go down. Well, then the brother walks in, and the brother's like, "How's my hair, bro? How's my hair?" I'm like, "Oh man, your hair looks great, dude." And I heard the groom say, "Not right now." I was like, something's going on here. And he's like, "No, bro, how's my hair look?" I got upset, and I was like, "Oh no, like what's going on?" And evidently, like they were about to get into an argument as she's about to do the first look and present herself to him in her wedding dress. So I took over, and I was like, whoa, one second. Why don't you go over here, talk with my assistant for a second. I'm getting ready to do this first look. I've got everything set up. This is only going to take 20 minutes, and then you can talk to him about your hair afterwards. It's no big deal, but just please wait in the other room. I had to intercept what was going on here. So he did. He went in the other room, and then you can't just go and say, "All right, let's do the first look." Woo! No, the groom is now agitated because his brother came in and made a scene, and there was no reason for it. So I turned to him and I said, "Hey, your bride is about to come down that aisle. Dude, she looks so amazing. She's so beautiful. You're going to hear her footsteps coming up behind you. because, the place is stone. You can hear her footsteps coming up behind you. Get that out of your head. Concentrate on her. She looks amazing. When you turn around and see her, you're going to be blown away, dude. Blown away. Like, wow. I can't wait for you to see her. And I had to put that focus back on the first look. And that happens way too much at weddings. Way too much. It's amazing. Just the drama that comes out of weddings sometimes. Just because, people think that their life is more important in this moment than your wedding is. And they interrupt. And family can be so rude sometimes. And it just blows my mind. But it happens a lot. And you have to be a psychologist as a wedding photographer. You, comment and tell me some of the craziest things that's ever happened to you. I would love to hear it. And we could talk about that all day long, all the crazy stuff. But, that was just one good example of what you have to deal with. So when somebody is paying for a wedding photographer, they're not just paying for somebody to take pretty pictures. They're not paying for the album or all these other things that you include in it. They're paying for, just the whole emotion of the whole entire thing. The wedding photographer that brides and grooms pick are going to determine how their wedding day goes. Because if you pick the wrong photographer, you're going to have the worst wedding in the world. Because that photographer is going to be around you all day long. And if you don't get along with them, then your wedding is going to suck. Your picture is going to suck. Because you're not going to feel beautiful or loved in this moment. You're going to feel like you have to be on that photographer all the time or whatever. So when you hire a wedding photographer, if you are a wedding photographer, take note of this, they are hiring somebody that they trust. That not only the photography, but that they trust they're going to get along with. And that is huge. That is so huge. And that's why every single time that I talk with a couple, and they're asking me to shoot their wedding or, see if I'm a good fit, I always tell them at the very end, look, guys, I don't care how great of a photographer you think I am. If you do not get along with who I am as a person, please, you do not need to hire me. Go hire somebody else that makes you feel more comfortable, because you being comfortable on your wedding day is more important than anything. And I really tell them that. I probably don't say how great of a photographer I am, but I don't know why that came out. But you have to have confidence in yourself. And, I want to kind of segue into being a great photographer and seeing yourself as a great photographer. Because if you don't see yourself as a great photographer, you're not going to be a great photographer. You have to really will yourself into it. You have to say, dude, I'm going to be the best ever. And if you think that way, you will be the best. And I'm going to use a quote from Richard Sherman, who was he was a defensive back for the Seattle Seahawks. He said he's the greatest that's ever played the game. And he would say that, and everybody thought he was super, super arrogant for saying that. But he later on said in another interview that, well, if I say that I'm the greatest, then I have to be the greatest. I have to be the best. And I'm going to do everything I can to uphold that reputation. And that's when it clicked to me. I was like, what a great idea. I mean, you don't need to be going around being arrogant and flaunting that you're the greatest photographer or whatever else. I'm sure most photographers think they're pretty great in their own mind. I thought I was great when I first started. And looking back, boy, I sucked. I was terrible. Terrible. And I had so much to learn. And but if you have that mentality and you think that way, you can be great. Because you're going to want to push yourself more. You're going to want to be more creative. Try new things. You're going to see what works and what doesn't. But if you have the attitude that I'm not that great of a photographer, well, you're not going to have the self-esteem to go outside and take pictures. You're not going to want to take pictures. And I will say that, we are creative people as photographers. And when you're a creative person, you can get down on yourself really, really fast. I want you guys to know, I've had a successful career in wedding photography. I've had success selling landscape pictures for a couple $1,000s. And, and I'm getting into all kinds of different things. And sometimes it's so much easier to make yourself look good on social media, that everything is going good. But I will be the first to tell you that it is not always that good. It's hard. When I don't sell something for a little while, or I don't get hired for a little while, I get into self-doubt. And you have to do things to get you out of that self-doubt. One of my favorite things to do is run. Running gets me closer to God than I am the rest of my life. Like, when I'm running, I am one with God. I feel so good in my life. Everything comes together. If I ever get in an argument with anybody, I go for a run. I come back. I am a different person. If I doubt myself, I go for a run. I come back. I no longer doubt myself. Maybe it's the energy or whatever it is about a run. That is my place to go. That makes me feel comfortable, and I absolutely transform in that moment when I'm running. I transform. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. So what I want you to do is I want you to find what it is that you love doing. So when you start doubting yourself in your wedding photography, what do you need to do to get yourself out of that doubt? Do you need to go read a book? Do you need to go take a hot bath? Do you need to go work in the garden for a little while? Do you need to go have coffee with your friends, or get a group of friends together to say, hey guys, tell me about my pictures. Do they really look good? They do? Oh, good. Whatever it is, go up into the mountains, go for a bike ride, go play disc golf, regular golf. Whatever it is that you need to do to get yourself back into that frame of mind, you need to go do it. And it's so important. And just start, if you don't know what that is, start paying attention to what that is. Next time you go out, you feel like you're in a bad mood, see what it is that turns around your day. Take a hold of that. Remember what that is. And then next time you get in a bad mood, go out and do it again. Hopefully drinking is not the thing that gets you out of the bad mood. Because that would suck. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm talking to myself. Somebody please ask me a question. I'm going to say hi in the comments. Hi. Wait, see if it's working. Hi. Uh-oh. Oh, I don't want to search emojis. What am I doing? Oh, there it is. Hi. Boom. Okay. Hey, I have 2 comments. Both from me. Alright, so I will transition from wedding photography to landscape photography and the differences in them. And I can talk about all this stuff separately in different ways. Like I said, when you ask me questions, I'll be able to tell you a lot more. But I'm just getting this started. You probably don't know my knowledge on photography, and that's okay, because you might just be knowing me for the first time. If you're starting to see who I am for the first time, if you like my personality and you respect my work, ask me a question. I'll get right to the point. A long time ago, I went to a conference where it said the no BS guide for wedding photography. The place was packed. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because finally somebody's going to tell me straight about wedding photography and what I'm doing wrong and what I can do to be the best wedding photographer ever. And I got in there and they just kind of ran around the questions. It was not a straightforward answer. And it was upsetting that somebody would call themselves the no BS guide to photography conference or whatever it was. And then you get in there and they're just walking around all the questions. Like, ask me what my prices are. Ask me what I include in my packages. I will tell you. Ask me about my wedding albums, because I guarantee you I do my wedding albums different than 99% of all wedding photographers. And it's changed my life. So that's a good question that I will take. I'll put up live someday. And I hope other people do it too, because I think it's groundbreaking. Basically what I did is I took what I did not like about wedding albums, took it out, and now I do wedding albums and I love them. That's a genius idea. That's so funny. Okay, so getting into landscapes. The difference between landscape photography and wedding photography is huge. Huge. Night and day. It's the biggest difference in the world. Landscape photography, I feel, is the hardest photography in the whole entire world to make money at. The hardest. There's nothing else that's harder. Um, Maybe an artist or something like that. But everybody's a landscape photographer. Everybody comes across an amazing moment. And if they know their gear good enough, they can capture it. You don't even have to know your gear good enough to capture it. You just guess. And 80% of the time it's going to turn out right. Because the camera does everything for you. A lot of times. Now, that doesn't mean that all landscape photography is 80% guess, you're going to make it. No, it's about being in the right place at the right time. The biggest thing that I have learned going from wedding photography to landscape photography is patience. Obviously, patience is the number one thing. Because in wedding photography, you have to be ready for the shot at all times. You got to be ready, and you got to have your backups, and you got to be creative on the spot. When it starts raining outside, what are you going to do? You have to roll with the punches all the time in wedding photography. You have to deal with the emotional, psychological warfare of families. You have to deal with all these different things. But landscape photography, you go out by yourself. You're alone. The shot is there. You take it. And you're done. It's so crazy to me. Like, coming from weddings to landscapes. First of all, wedding photographers, I feel, are the most well-rounded photographers you will ever meet in your life. Because they know how to handle everything. Because they've been through it. Especially the ones that have shot hundreds of weddings. Like, they know what's going on and how to capture something in a moment's notice. So when you become a landscape photographer, after knowing all this stuff, you go out and you take a picture and you're done. Like, the picture's done. You can wait around for a little bit if you want. But why? The picture's done. And for me, that's the hardest thing. When I go out with my landscape photography buddies and friends, that's the hardest thing for me is because I get that picture, boom, quick. Like, I get it quick. And then I want to go off into the next thing. I don't want to spend all day in one spot. Unless I know that there's a high probability of that shot getting better. But I think enough experience in photography will tell you that the shot's not going to get better, any better than what it is right now. And you can wait around forever for that shot to get better, but it's not. It's just not. So what you have to do, transitioning from weddings to landscapes, is you got to find an inner peace that you never had time to find when you were a wedding photographer. You just have to find that inner peace. It's difficult. You find yourself talking to God. You find yourself thinking about problems, everything else. But, stuff really clears up for you as a wedding photographer. As a landscape photographer. I've been talking about weddings for so long. I'll separate these two subjects in the future. But this is my journey, and since nobody's asking me questions, I'm just going to continue with my journey, even if it's an hour long. I hope you enjoy it. But that's the most amazing thing about landscape photography is that, God provides you with a scene. This is how I look at it. God provides you with a scene. It's there in front of you, and all you are is a tool to capture it. And if you don't know your tool, you're not going to capture it. And you have to be ready. Just like a wedding. Same thing with landscapes. Those sunsets, sunrises, they come and go really quick. And if you're not ready for them, you're not going to capture them. You're not going to get the shot. So you do have to know you do have to know your equipment. You have to know what you're doing. It's just a much slower setup. You get there, you find the place, you find your angle, and that can take hours in itself. Whereas a wedding, you better find that angle quick because they got a reception to get to. So you start thinking, and this is another thing that I can talk about in the future if you want me to, okay? But you guys got to comment and let me know that you're listening, is you have to be able to see the shot from different angles before you even get there. That's something I'm big on. Big. So in other words, let me give you an example. When you're driving down a highway, okay, and you see a big old tree over there, okay, big, huge, beautiful tree, and you think that tree can be amazing for a picture. Well, the next thing that you need, the very first thing that you need to do after you see that big tree is you need to think about your angle, okay, before you get to that tree. So in other words, you see a tree, it's about a quarter of a mile up in front of you on your left. Well, then look a quarter mile in front of you straight ahead, where you're going to be standing here in a second. And then look to the left of that tree and see if there's anything behind it. If there's something behind it, and don't waste your time going a quarter mile down there to go take the picture when you can stay right here where you are and get an amazing picture. See what I'm saying? This is the kind of thinking that you have to do in wedding photography. And this is the kind of thinking that will change your life, especially in landscape photography. Especially in landscape photography. I can't talk. Because when you see a scene in landscape photography, you might have to walk a quarter mile, a mile to get to an amazing spot. But if you have the forethought to think ahead and go, okay, well, there's the spot I want to get to. There's my subject right there. You know what? That's really not going to be that great of an angle, because I can see if I'm over there and I'm looking back this way, that picture is not going to be that great because there's something behind it, you know? So you need to just kind of judge before you get there. And that's the thing with landscape photography, is it just takes a little while to start looking at this kind of stuff. But you can do it in wedding photography. You can do it in any kind of photography. Guys, I've been talking for 47 minutes. I haven't got a single comment. I am getting tired of talking about the same old thing. And what I really want to do, more than anything, is I want to help you be better photographers. So, I'm going to end for right now. But unless you have, if a question pops up at the last second, I will stay here and answer it, because that's what I'm here for. But that's what I want to do. I want to help you be a better photographer. So let me know how I can help you. If you don't want to comment, you don't want to say it publicly right here, just email me at joe@joehendricks.com. I will love to talk about it. I won't mention your name, and I will just get to the point straight away when I get on next time and I do this again. It's no big deal. I've really enjoyed talking about photography, because I do love talking about it. And I've been through a lot, and I feel like I can help you out quite a bit. Just ask me a question. Go to joehendricks.com. Make sure you like my stuff. And next time I will stream only on YouTube instead of TikTok at the same time. So I'm looking at the right place. Guys, stay safe. Enjoy the fresh air every second you can. Be creative. Take chances in photography, and love what you're doing. And I will talk to you guys here in the future, and I can't wait for you to see the next stream.